There's something strange about MSP's merch. You can find dozens of stock images online, but you almost never see the items in anyone's hands outside of MSP's corporate office. There were no sold eBay listings, no reviews, nothing. For years I was almost convinced the merch never made its way into production, until I saw proof it was real. So plan A, we break into this girl's house and So it turns out robbery is frowned upon, and generally illegal in most places. Sorry guys, no crime documentary today, we're gonna have a cozy unboxing instead. Okay, so what's the plan B? I could be patient, but I could also just stumble across a whole gold mine of it and buy it all at once. Well, that was easy. Getting the stuff to my house though was another story. I ended up paying a complete stranger to ship the merch out to me, and it took over a month. Before we crack this open, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who watched my iceberg video. The support on that was amazing, and I'll be able to continue making videos for a while now. So thank you. And let's open this bad boy up. I figured I'd start off with something small, and it's this 3-part desk organizer. I'll get to this pink-haired fraud in a minute, but we must remain focused. As you can see, it's looking quite well loved. But considering this was made all the way back in 2012, I think it's in alright shape. This actually predates the MSP webshop, which didn't come out until 2014. On the side here we have a Laguna Blue looking character, and she was used quite a lot in MSP's marketing back then. Turning to the back we have Roxy Ramone and then a nameless character. The Form are a company who basically just take different IPs and whack them on products. And it was all pretty much only sold in Poland and the Nordic countries. There is a little bit of rust on the rivets on the back, and this is probably due to being pressed up against a damp wall. So let's move on to some backpacks now. This first one, to be honest, it's kind of naff. The printing on it has this like weird yellow tinge. I don't know if they thought they were in Mexico instead of Poland, but anyway. Although the quality of the printing on the bag isn't great, and they kind of have this raccoon eye effect going on, it does mean the bag has held up better over the years. So for the most part, it's in good condition. Flipping it over to the back, we have a tag. This is reading... Now we're in Australia. Okay, it's 2012 again. So yeah, this one isn't my favourite, so let's just move on to the next one. The funny thing about these backpacks is when I bought them, they had been listed for sale over 5 years ago. But the seller shipped them the next day, so that is some serious dedication to the vintage game if you ask me. The texture of the printing is similar to this one, but because it's a bigger bag, the image isn't as squished. Opening this bag gave me flashbacks to the time I bought a backpack off Depop and there was a whole ass breadstick in the pocket. If there is one person who can pull this off, it's probably the indie sleaze girl from Reddit. And keeping with the theme of the same 3 characters over and over again, we have a document organizer, though I think the official name is Briefcase with Handle. And this one is from 2013. There is a little bit of damage, namely watermarks on the bottom, and I was surprised to open this up and find a much prettier design on the inside. Fortunately this one wasn't really rusty, but there was a little bit of crud inside of the handle. I love the design on the back, and I think this would make perfect storage for the MSP magazines. Next up we have this small purse, which is obviously made for kids, but I really like the glittery effect they've added. I haven't properly cleaned anything yet, but I did go in with a damp cloth and just buff out some marks that were on the back here, but I think once I wash it, it will look brand new again. Now I understand being a girls product in 2010s this had to be hot pink, but on the inside there is a really pretty colour gradient. I think it's a shame they didn't utilise this orange and yellow gradient on the rest of the merch, and instead went with the safe option. Inside there are no pockets and it's just the same tag from before, but they actually bothered to put a different zip on this one. Before we move on, I have some lore to dump about this pink-haired girl. A lot of you might recognise her as a prototype of Pixie Star, but there's actually a bit more to it than that. This pink-haired character has been in development since at least 2011. And I say that because this merch came out in 2012 and it takes longer than you might expect to produce. But something I didn't know is that this character actually had another design before she became Pixie Star. There is a whole video about this on YouTube called The Untold Truth of Pixie Star by VinMSP. But yeah, turns out there were 2 different designs before Pixie Star killed Samantha. I want to break it up a bit now and talk about this design book, which I'm not exactly sure the year of, but if I had to guess, I would say 2013. On the back there are advertisements for other books, and notably there is no barcode, so this obviously came with a magazine or as part of a multi-pack. Make your own design. Funny craft. Okay. I've never heard of this makeup and nail design book before, but I really hope some pictures surface because it looks quite fun. The only other activity book I've ever seen is this one that was posted on Reddit, which is potentially the same one that was advertised on the back, but I can't be certain. The idea behind this book is that it gives you a template to draw in your own fashion designs, as well as a short section at the front to fill in some personal information, although the previous owner never filled this in. In fact, the entire book is unused. Back in the old days of MSP, you couldn't really buy anything like these eyes or lips if you were non-VIP, so I was always really jealous of the girls who had this. But yeah, that high school chat room before we had the fountain in there, that is just iconic. And for a split second, I thought this was Holt Hyde. You may not like it, but this is what peak male performance looks like. If this stuff ever made its way to the UK, I think it would have made its way into Poundland soon after. That is truly a sight to behold. I think I would have loved this as a kid, but the only problem is, when you have these dark thick outlines, if you're trying to draw over this, you're going to need to use marker pens, but the paper is so thin that it will probably bleed through. I can't really complain because I'm never going to draw in this book, but I would have loved to have seen some actual MSP animations in here, or just some more variation in design. The next item was supposed to be these notebooks all the way from Sweden. You can still find some of the notebooks individually, but this listing looked like it was for the entire set. I'm not too sure what happened, but as far as I can tell, the seller lost them. And I was a little bit bummed out because I really wanted something with this emo girl on. But instead of cancelling my order, she was kind enough to send me some other new in-box merch that she hadn't listed yet, which I'm really grateful for. As far as I'm aware, there is only one piece of merchandise that came in a box. I'm not even, excited about what's inside, I just like the fact that it comes in a box and it's new. We have Chloe, whatever her name was, and that's Zeke Cassidy, I know that one. There exists a version of this lunchbox with Zeke in the middle with two hoes on the side, but I'm 99% sure this is just a prototype. At least we got an emo boonie on the side of the box. Overall, the box is in decent shape. There is a slight tear on the side, but that was there when I bought it. For some reason, they added this one 3D looking building when all of the other buildings are just the silhouettes. I'm going to carefully open this up, but I want to preserve it, so I'm not going to be opening the plastic. Despite being 14 years old, it still has that very fresh plasticky smell, and it makes me wonder if this box is smell proof. This next box I'm just going to speed through because it is quite similar to the other one. It has virtually the same design, but it's just a little bit smaller. Mr. Stewart Girl here. Whoa, radical, look at him! He's got a guitar and everything. I don't know, it's just like every single groomer on MSP used this nose and lips combination. And then we have Miss Carousel here on the side. I mean, the gingers are actually getting quite good representation here. The next thing I have is this stationery organiser, and I was under the impression it would come with some stationery. This isn't the seller's fault, but it didn't, and I couldn't find any to fill it with. I really like the metallic effect on it, and I think I would actually put this on my desk, but I need to come to peace with opening it up first. It's my personal theory that all of the stock photos are just prototypes, because the top of the tin here is different. This one is dated 2012 as well. Oh yeah. This one is only slightly different to the one in the back, but the whole reason I've taken it out is to show you the tag. Now don't get me wrong, all MSP merch is rare, but these purses are actually surprisingly easy to come by. And again, this thing smells brand new. It just brought me back to shopping for new school stuff at the end of the summer holidays, and I know you guys know exactly the smell I'm talking about here. But back to the merch, we have one last thing that was sent as a replacement for the notebooks, and it's a small lockable money box. And I think this might be my favourite from the entire lot. Growing up I had a diary with this lock on, but you could literally jam anything in there and it would just open up fine. But I love the design on this, I think it encapsulates everything 2012 MSP was about. And there's no pink head bitch on it too, which is a bonus. It turns out there were two designs of these money boxes, so I think I definitely lucked out getting this one. And I even managed to find a picture of it that wasn't a stock photo too. I want to help you guys out, so at the end of the video I'll tell you how I imported this stuff to the UK. and I'll even show you what's currently for sale at the time of recording. But before that, we have a couple more items to get through, including this desk mat, which was just too big to fit in frame. There were two different kinds of desk mat. One was laminated, and then this one with a cardboard backing. I do like this design, but I wish they stuck with the prototype version. This one has been used, and there is a little bit of damage to it, but given it's 12 years old now, I think it's in alright shape. Next up, we have a magazine, and I'm kicking myself now because I only bought one. If you go to Polish Vintage, you'll find a ton of magazines, but not many of them are still in the plastic. And you can pretty much guarantee that code is used if it's not sealed. But I can definitely look into getting some more of these and making another video, so if you want to see that, just let me know. Excuse me miss, where are your eyebrows? I've taken the time to translate this because of course it is in Polish. This edition is celebrating 10 years of MSP. And opening it up, of course we have the Star VIP code, which they would only give out on special occasions. When I bought this magazine, it was still sealed and I had no idea what was on the inside. Which is funny because at the time of recording, it is currently Black Friday. Apparently it's called Black Friday because in the past, profits were written in black financial books, whereas the losses were marked in red. Well, I guess you learn something new every day. Every MSP magazine had a comic strip included, with this one being centered around Black Friday too. It's only 2 pages long, so there's not much of a plot, but it centers around this guy who got dragged on a shopping spree and does typical guy stuff. What do you mean the rest of this crazy night is going to be interesting? I'm not too sure what they're trying to imply there. On the next page we have some Christmas recipes. These little blue shits are kinda tasty. I think I've been lied to about Polish food. So this was a celebrity news in 2019. The magazine describes it as being half joking, half serious, so we won't be hearing about any of these actors' lawsuits or domestic disputes. It's just kind of funny stories, and of course some inspirational ones too. And because it is the anniversary edition, they took a trip down memory lane to look at some of the best themes that MSP has to offer. But I personally disagree. In my opinion, these are the best MSP themes. But moving on, we have something a little more interesting. MSP from the kitchen. It looks like the editors of the magazine snuck in and took some photos whilst everyone was working. This is someone creating assets for the game. They don't go into too much detail though, and I assume this is because it was made for a younger audience. I still think it's pretty interesting though. They even show us their mood boards, which is where they plagiarise everything from. Now I'm not sure if this is on every issue, but they definitely have featured a lot of people from the game in the magazines over the years. According to this interview, this is an MSP YouTuber who's popular in Poland, with the most interesting part being this person warning everyone against scammers and also not to believe that MSP is shutting down. And of course every edition came with a poster. I'm gonna have to really carefully rip this one out to show you. I'm so scared. Sorry Billie Eilish. I'm not sure how these users were selected to be printed in the magazine. They're either popular movie stars or they ran a competition in the previous magazine. If any of you Polish players know, please write it in the comments, that would be really helpful. I think having the chance to have your avatar printed in the official magazine alongside your username is a really special thing. And I wish these magazines were printed in the UK too. We did have an All About magazine come out in 2012. Unfortunately, I don't have the magazine anymore, it ended up getting destroyed because I was a kid, and I've never seen it for sale again. To keep everything nice and neat, I'm just gonna put this poster back in and close the staples up. I can't press these back down with my hands. Sorry, Billie Eilish. Well, the surgery was a success. They start talking about the history of MSP according to Boonies for some reason. Because I don't want MSP to sue me, I can't read out the full transcripts. But trust me, this part was just filler. Boonie. Then the flies did extinct, from then we have been lived happily in rooms next to other animals from MSP, the end. Well, that clears that one up. Does anyone still remember the flies attacking us from everywhere? Yes, but I also remember the shits that you had in the chat rooms, MSP. Next up we have a story from Polish MSP. And after reading it, I am filled with so many questions. This is Dela and Dirk, who they describe as the most beautiful couple on MSP. They were famous on the Polish server for creating these romantic art books and music videos. But being from an English-speaking server, I had never heard of these guys before. The magazine editors decided to interview them, and they asked if they were willing to show their faces, but they declined. They do, however, tell the story of how they got together. I'm going to try to reserve some judgment here because I think they were all quite young when this happened. But the story goes that they were together in real life and they lived in the same neighbourhood. And as most teenage relationships go, they ended up having a big fight, and Dayla decided she was never speaking to him again. Being newly single, she found herself with a lot of spare time and decided to join MSP. During this time, Dirk kept trying to reach out to her, but she wanted to go no contact. And he would not take no for an answer, to the point where he found out her MSP username, signed up for MSP, and started catfishing her. And then for some reason she finds this flattering and decides to take him back. Again, I think they were all quite young when this went down, evidently. But the editors asked them if they were still together in real life, and they said yes. They had been together for years at this point, and so for her 18th birthday he decided to propose. And I am so confused, and I'm filled with a bunch of questions. I think I'm just seeing this from an adult perspective. Because if I set a boundary with someone and then they decided to stalk me over it, I don't think I would be taking them back and getting married to them. But maybe that's just me. I also think it's possible that some things might have just been mistranslated and actually it's not as straightforward as that. This was written in 2019, so I'm curious to know if they're still together today. I'm also just interested to know if there are any other stories like this in the MSP magazines. I feel really terrible that I only picked up one, but I figured I wanted to focus on the merch. But if this video gets enough traction, I will go ahead and buy a bunch of the magazines and we can take a look through the best of the stories together. Moving on, we have MSP taking advantage of their Shutterstock subscription. I'm going to assume these were the topics of discussion on the forum that week. That's probably why they never made a UK version, because if they posted the forum topics in the magazine, I think they would be in big trouble. What drew me to this magazine in particular was the old MSP town on the front page. But I have to say I'm feeling a little bit clickbaited by that because there is no mention of it on the inside. Despite all of that, I still really enjoyed reading this magazine, and I feel like they're a good way to dip my toes into the Polish MSP lore. I only have 2 more items left, so I'm just going to speed through them. First up is this soft pencil case with the 2 same characters yet again. But unlike the rest of the stuff, the logo on the tag is actually embroidered. My favourite detail is the metal tag that they added to this, and I'm not sure why they didn't use this for the rest of the stuff. And lastly, we have one more backpack. Unfortunately, this one isn't in great condition. There are quite a few marks on it, and this is most evident on this Pixie Star / Samantha Killer, whatever you want to call her. There are a few black marks where the paint has worn through completely. I feel like with a couple of small dabs of acrylic paint, this could easily be touched up, but at the moment I'm going to leave it because I don't want to ruin it. The adhesive on the sequins has also worn off, and the sequins are everywhere now, but looking on the bright side, this is a much bigger backpack, with quite a few pockets for storage. I think the glaring issue with a lot of this merch, and the reason it never really took off, is because they did just reuse the same print on everything. But I'm still glad I was able to find all of this stuff and showcase it today. Even beyond what I have here, MSP's merch line was surprisingly wide. They also made bedding, wall art, and a lot more stationery I wasn't able to get my hands on. And they're still selling merch to this day, but I wouldn't be caught dead wearing any of it. They're some of the most uninspirational designs I have ever seen. It's a shame they never got big enough to put out better merch, and I always wish they had MSP dolls like Stardoll had. And I could see them making absolute bank off a proper makeup collection if they decided to release it today. But given the history of MSP's merch, I don't see it happening. So where do we go to find old merch? This stuff is still really rare. The best place to look for this stuff is vinted.pl. Unlike in the UK, it's connected to listings from all over the Nordic countries too. I've looked through just about every second-hand site outside of the UK, and outside of Poland, the offerings aren't great. You'll normally just find MSP2 stuff or kids' clothes, with the most exciting thing being a 2014 calendar I found on this Danish website. Actually ordering the stuff in is where it gets tricky. To order from Polish Vinted, you basically need to be a Polish citizen, and there aren't many ways around this. So the method I ended up using was r/international shoppers. Just to be clear, I have nothing to do with this subreddit, but I had a good experience on there. And because this video is dragging on a bit, I will explain how it works in a pinned comment. And with that, that is all I have for you today. I just wanted to say a huge thank you again, and until next time...
Ugh.